Welcome to Mach 10 Sports, and welcome to this segment with us here. We got a special segment for you that I like, but first of all, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mach 10 Sports. Give us a follow on the gram at Mach 10 Sports SEC. I got an interesting segment for us today. I like this kind of stuff. I hope you do too. Top 5, I'm going to call it domino games in the SEC this year. What do I mean by that? Top 5 domino games. I mean games that affect the division races that no one's really talking about. They're just sneaking under the radar at the beginning of the year through the middle of the year. But when we look back on the end of the year, they're going to have a major impact on how the conference races shake out, especially 2 through 6, 2 through 7 in the West and East. So I'm going to give you my top 5 in order. I'm going to go 5 through 1 of my games. I mean, we know about the Alabama-Texas A&M game, Jimbo Saban. Everybody's talked about that. We know about A&M Arkansas starting to become a very talked about game each year now. We know about that. We know about Georgia-Florida, world's largest cocktail party in Jacksonville. We know about Alabama-LSU, Alabama-Auburn. Keep naming them a little bit. Georgia-Tennessee's getting some hype this year. We know about those games. I'm talking about the games that we're not talking about right now, but we're going to be looking back at the end of the season, end of this 2022 season in late November, early December, and being like, dang, that game had some real impact on the division races. All right, let's start with my 5th game, October 1st, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, Kentucky at Ole Miss. And you're probably telling me, Kentucky at Ole Miss? Yeah, I think Kentucky rolls in with 1 loss, needing to win in Oxford, not to be 0-2, not to start off 0-2. And I think Ole Miss is easily 4-0 coming to this game. I mean, they open up with Troy, Central Arkansas, at Georgia Tech, and Tulsa at home. There is no reason Ole Miss is not 4-0 going to that game. None. Kentucky. I have them losing to Florida week 2, so I don't think they can afford to lose this game. So it's going to have an impact on the race. If Kentucky wins this, they're back in the race, I think. Now, they did lose to an Eastern Division team, I think, against Florida. But in this game itself, this is going to be a big defining game for Kentucky and at Ole Miss. And imagine if Kentucky rolls in 4-0. We're going to have an SEC showdown in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi. Kentucky at Ole Miss. I'd have to look at the schedule, see what else is on that day. That may be CBS. Maybe. A night game at the worst. ESPN night game. High expectations. Again, Kentucky loses to Florida. They can't start off 0-2. But if they roll in undefeated, there's a lot to be had there. So that comes in at my 5th ranked game, October 1st. Mark it on the calendar, people. Kentucky at Ole Miss. Going to my 4th ranked game, September 17th. I think it's going to be one of my favorite games of the year. Nobody's talking about. Remember, September 17th. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Mississippi State at LSU. I like it. First SEC game for LSU and Brian Kelly. State won last time there in 2020. State has the most production back in the SEC. They have some kids on that team that won in Baton Rouge last year and want to do it again. Early in the year for LSU, transitioning in a new quarterback, transitioning in a new offensive line, new staff. Mississippi State gets LSU perfectly on the schedule. This would be a tough loss for LSU at home to open up conference play, and you still go to Auburn 2 weeks later, I believe. Still got Tennessee, Alabama, the rest of the West, just name it. State opens up with Memphis. Lost last year, but I think they bounced back. A little interesting little tidbit no one's talking about in this game, though. Mississippi State goes to Tucson, Arizona to play Arizona the week before they go to Baton Rouge, September 10th. Guess what time that game is? Some of you will be in bed by the time it starts. 10 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone. 8 o'clock kickoff over in Arizona. That's late. And after being in college football, I know how late they're going to get back. Mississippi State's going to get back to Starkville around 7, 8 a.m. in the morning. Have to get ready and go play LSU on the road the next week to open up conference play. I like State in this game. Perfect on the schedule. A lot of production back. Getting them early during the transition time. Really, the thing LSU's got going for them is it is at home. State wins this. State is staring at looking at hosting A&M 2 weeks later for another SEC West showdown. See, domino effect. You win this game, Mississippi State, you're setting yourself up to be in West contention down the road, and you need to win this game. You need to. Unfortunately, you draw Georgia out of one of your East games this year. That's tough. Georgia and Kentucky. Some may argue it's the toughest East draw. If you want to get 8-9 wins, which I think this team is capable of getting to, they need to go win games like this early in the year against an inexperienced team with a new staff. Again, my 4th domino game, September 17th. Mississippi State invades Baton Rouge trying to go get the back-to-back wins at Tiger Stadium. Moving to 3rd, October 8th. We're going to stay in Baton Rouge. I like the town. We're going to stay there. Tennessee at LSU. LSU comes into this game, I think, could be undefeated. Probably not. 1 or 2 losses, I think, depending on the Mississippi State and Auburn games. I personally think LSU gets better as the season goes on, and I think this game is one of those games that could springboard them. I don't like where this game sets up for Tennessee on the schedule. I don't. It's got their bye week before, and they got Alabama the next week. If Tennessee's undefeated going into Baton Rouge, like I think they will, and they've had 2 weeks to a week to talk about the anticipated battle, like I've mentioned in our Tennessee preview before, with Alabama looming the next week, the talks around Knoxville, if Alabama and Tennessee are both undefeated going into the third Saturday in October, which again, it's not the third Saturday in October this year, but can you imagine that? Tennessee trying to exercise the 16-year demon with the Tide coming in undefeated. But you got LSU the week before. Hold your horses. LSU may have something to say, and they may rain on that parade. We haven't seen this game a lot. When I think of this game, I think of Tennessee going to LSU, that made-up game Katrina year, Tennessee getting the win with Eric Ainge. I just think this game is a very exciting game. That's why it comes in third for me in my domino game. Coming in second, September 10th, Kentucky at Florida. Second week of the season. Florida coming off playing a team who's favored to win the Pac-12 in the week before against Utah at home. Florida needs one of these games. And if you ask Billy Napier, he's going to take the league win. He'd like to start off 1-0 in conference, 1-1 overall. Obviously 2-0, but if you're going to pick, he's going to pick the conference game. He needs to. It'd be tough to start 0-2 in the swamp. Florida in general is not used to starting off 0-2. Winner competes for another week. I think this is a survive and advance game. Winner kind of didn't even get on the bus to the East race to head towards Atlanta. Not that I really think there's going to be much of a competition in the East, like I've stated before. I think Georgia wins it fairly easily. But you're not even on the bus, you lose this game. This is a must-win for both teams. And this is the second week of the season. Kentucky, again, a team, it's a big year for them. They got one of the better quarterbacks in the league. They've been one of the more consistent teams in the league for the last 8 to 10 years. This is a game you go to the swamp and you win. It's a first-year staff with Billy Napier, but you need to win this game to show Florida, hey, you ain't just going to come in the East and unseat us. Like, we've been the most consistent team, probably second most consistent team in this division in the last 8 years. It's a big game early in Gainesville. Big. So that's why it sits there at second for me. And going to my number 1 domino game of the year, we're going to stay September 10th. We're going to Fayetteville. South Carolina invades Fayetteville. South Carolina at Arkansas. Arkansas opens up with Cincinnati the week before. Arkansas got a relatively decent East draw. I mean, I think South Carolina's be better than some people think. I got them finishing second in the East. I don't have them winning this game, though. But Arkansas also draws Missouri. Arkansas, with them playing in the West and to have the season they need to have, 8-9 wins, they need to win both their East games. It's a big game for Arkansas. 2 tough games to open up the slate. So open up the season with Cincinnati and South Carolina coming into town. South Carolina can afford to lose this game more so than Arkansas, and I think they do. But first real road game, Spencer Rattler. We'll see what South Carolina's got, especially with that offensive line. But I do think, imagine if South Carolina were to win this game. Georgia comes to town the next week to Willie B. You would have a potential undefeated East showdown with Georgia and South Carolina. I think Georgia would win it, but can you imagine the atmosphere at Williams-Brice Stadium if that were to happen? It would be a humongous win for Coach Shane Beamer. And again, you got a matchup between Shane Beamer and Sam Pittman, who are both very familiar with each other, worked with each other at Georgia. I just think this is a great game that I think we're going to be wishing this was towards the end of the year, because both these teams are going to be good teams this year. But I think we're going to look back and be, man, September 10th between Kentucky and Florida. Then also you got my number 1 game, South Carolina at Arkansas. Those are 2 big early SEC games. That's kind of, hey, put up or shut up second week. And I like how we're getting into it early. I am looking forward to that second week. Very underrated week in college football. But again, I got the number 1 game, September 10th, South Carolina at Arkansas. Let's go back and rehash it real fast, starting at 5. These are my domino games. Remember, we're not talking about the Texas A&M Alabama game, LSU Alabama, Arkansas A&M, the Iron Bowl, Tennessee Georgia. We're not talking about those games. We're talking about games that are under the radar, no one's really talking about, that'll have impact on division races. Again, 5th, October 1st, Kentucky at Ole Miss. Could be a really good game, could be a good game. 4th, September 17th, Mississippi State at LSU. I think the Dogs get LSU early, right where they want them on the schedule. This will have an impact on the Dogs season. 3rd, October 8th, Tennessee at LSU. Very intriguing matchup. I don't like it where it places on the schedule for the Vols right before Alabama. And I think LSU at some point gets a big win. It springboards them to finishing the season strong. And then 2nd, September 10th, Kentucky at Florida, big SEC East showdown, week 2. Winner, I don't even think gets on the, a loser, I don't even think gets on the bus for the SEC East race after that. And we're going to stay, my number 1 game, September 10th, South Carolina at Arkansas. Some of my honorable mention games for my domino effect games. October 1st, LSU at Auburn. I think LSU could roll in there with 1 loss, maybe undefeated. I do think Auburn will be undefeated rolling into that game. Jordan Hare is going to be rocking. That game used to have major implications about 10, 15 years ago before Bama came out of the cave and decided to be really good and Saban got there. Winter used to have a stranglehold of the West. I think it's another big game this year early. Again, October 1st, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. I think that's another big game, especially if Mississippi State goes and knocks LSU off in Baton Rouge 2 weeks before that. Another big SEC West game. And then finally, November 19th, I think Tennessee at South Carolina will be for second place in the SEC East. That's a big one. I just think some other ones had some other implications on there. If I could sneak another one in here and put it at 6, I would like to throw Tennessee at South Carolina in there. But those were 3 other games that it really came to my mind when I brought this up. Again, my domino effect games that no one's really talking about, but we're going to look back and say, hey, Mach 10 Sports called it for the season. These games had massive impacts on both East and Western Division races. Appreciate you joining us. I hope you got something out of it. Again, please subscribe if you aren't already on our YouTube channel, Mach 10 Sports. Give us the follow if you're not already on Twitter at Mach 10 Sports. And then give us the follow on the gram at Mach 10 Sports SEC. I appreciate you joining us and you have a great day. Keep following us on Mach 10 Sports for the best information on SEC sports.